I'll do my thing. I'm going to build my kingdom. Like, Lord, like you are the Lord of my life, but from that side of the room. And then I have things I need to do. I need to make sure that I'm a professional baseball player. I need to make sure I make money to support my family. These are the things that I have on my to-do list. And then, thankfully I had some goals that I accomplished. And I was sitting there one year and I signed a contract with the Padres for 3 years that I thought would like make me super happy, and all these things that I worked for. And I signed and I was waiting for all this confetti to come down and nothing happened. Whoa, that was not as fulfilling as I thought it would be. And not to say that was a bad thing, it was awesome. But like the Lord led me to these different stages of like, hey, you're not building your own kingdom. Like the time you spend on this earth is to build my kingdom.
Well, hey crew, thank you so much for joining us here today. It's Adam and Emily. You're listening to The Conversation.
Let's
This
go.
is episode 317.
Let's go.
I was just thinking earlier, do you think there's someone out there who's listened to all 317 episodes of ours?
In addition to Nancy Weber, actually, I don't think my mom listens. Mom, if you listen, can you
probably like 3.
Yeah, Mom, if you listen, can you just text me and I love you and I love the podcast? I bet there probably has been.
If you've listened to every episode of this podcast, let us know.
We'll give you a hug.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what we'll give you. Is there a podcast?
Therapy.
Is there a podcast that you listen to every episode of?
Yes.
I have one. What's one?
too.
What's yours?
Well,
Is it safe to confess?
I think it's called The Toast. It's like
Whoa.
It's like a pop culture-y. They just talk about like it's called the Fast 5 Stories of the Day. So they have 5 stories, and so like Dancing with the Stars that I've been watching.
Oh my gosh.
Like they recap that on their episode.
That's perfect. Mine that I've listened to every episode is Brad Lomenick's H3 Leadership Podcast. So I've listened to every episode.
Those are very different podcasts.
Yeah. I'll pray for your in the world and
but
of
it's like
the world too.
It's like 2 sisters, and they're so funny together. Like their dynamic is just so good. So
they sound fantastic.
They
sound fantastic. Today is part 2 in our series that we're doing right now called Faith and Justice. And I have absolutely loved this series so far. And as typical, we talk about life, about leadership, about our walk with Christ. But we also talk about justice and the importance as Jesus followers to make our world a more just world in every one of these episodes as well. For this podcast series, we have an amazing partner, the International Justice Mission. IJM is a global nonprofit working to end slavery and violence around the world, taking special care of survivors from the moment they're rescued all the way through their healing. To find out more, visit ijm.org. Specifically look into becoming a freedom partner, a monthly giver to IJM. Just want to encourage you to do that. Our second partner, another incredible partner, Vern ID Mitsubishi. Vern ID Motor Cars is a growing faith-based employee-owned company that strives to deliver dreams and transform lives in everything that they do. And I've purchased my last 4 vehicles through Vern ID. One of those vehicles was for a family member. I was like, don't go anywhere else, go to Vern ID. My wife just got a new Honda CRV she absolutely loves. And so whether you're looking for an Outlander like I drive or a Honda CRV like my wife drives, look no further. No matter where you live also, they'll ship it to you. Go visit vernid.com. Those are our partners. I love our partners.
Perfect. Thanks so much for sharing.
Here we go.
For part 2 of this Faith and Justice series, you had Nick Hundley on.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about Nick?
Yeah, so Nick was a longtime professional baseball player. He is now an executive at the Texas Rangers. I don't know how long that's going to be because if you search Nick, right now a whole bunch of baseball teams are looking at making him their head coach. Hello. I literally couldn't believe the timing. I'm like, he's going to cancel. There's no way he's going to show.
He did.
I loved this interview. I'm just going to say filled with leadership gold. I thought he had just a lot of leadership wisdom. I also just found him to be deeply humble. We also talk about justice and his love for IJM. He got choked up, and he didn't seem like a guy that would get choked up. He got emotional talking about just the difference that they're making. You're going to love this episode, whether you're into baseball or not. Enjoy.
Yeah.
So for the person who doesn't know you, the Cliff Notes version of just who you are, your story, kind of your background.
Yeah. Quick Cliff Notes. My dad was a college football coach. He coached for 42 years all over the place.
Oh my gosh.
UCLA, Colorado, Washington, all over. So we moved around a bunch with him. Growing up, we lived in 5 different states and a bunch of schools, and it was fun. So me and my older brother, I love playing all sports. I thought I was going to be a baseball player and a football player, and then he didn't recruit me. That dashed my dreams. So he was at Washington, and they were winning the Rose Bowl, and he's like, go do something else. So I played baseball at Arizona. I got met my wife there. Was there for 3 years. Great time. Got drafted out of there by the San Diego Padres. Came up with them. Played 7 years there. I got traded to the Baltimore Orioles for a year. 2 with the Rockies, 2 with the Giants, and then 1 with the A's. And then I retired in 2020. And then in that next year I retired, I worked for the commissioner's office, doing long-term growth of the game, things like the pitch clock, and now the pitch comm, bunch of the new stuff. Was working on that with a couple guys. And then
that had to have been pretty like interesting in itself. Like
yeah. Yeah.
You're like, interesting or wild is another word that you could use. Yeah. I cut you off. Keep going.
Yeah. When you're playing, you're like, oh, I just have to go perform on the field. And you're not you're super insular and focused on what's going on. And then you get out of it and you're like, oh man, there's actually other people that work really hard to get games on the field. And like, there's a whole nother set of people that support and help and grow this game. So, it's good to see. It was eye-opening to see the more business side and all the labor stuff and everything that goes into it. So
you were at the commissioner's office, and then like what did that continue on there? What happened career-wise that way?
So then I did that for a year, and then actually worked for International Justice Mission for a year. The nonprofit side was incredible. We can get more into that. And then one of my best friends in the world, again, Chris Young, he took the job as the president of the Texas Rangers and is running that team. So he said, hey, come over here and help out. And so I've been with the Rangers for 3 years in the front office with him. So it's been a while. I've got a lot more jobs post baseball than I did pre baseball. So trying to keep a job, but it's been fun.
Nick, faith-wise, if you're willing to share, what has that been like for you? Is that always been a part of the equation? I'll just turn you loose there.
Yeah, I was super fortunate. My parents have been married 52 years now, I feel like.
Oh my gosh.
And sorry, Mom, if that's wrong. I know it's not 50. I know it's more than 50. So they know Jesus. And I'm very thankful. I got a good draw. I know that not everybody has this stability of parents and family that I had growing up. And they modeled that they knew Jesus. They didn't just say it, they lived it. And they still live it out now. And they live a mile down the street from us. And we have 2 girls, and I want them to spend as much time with their grandparents as they can. So I'm very thankful that way. That being said, I didn't really know a personal relationship with Jesus until I got away from them. I just kind of felt like they know Jesus. That's awesome. I'll do my thing. I'm going to build my kingdom. Like, Lord, like, you are the Lord of my life, but from that side of the room. And then I have things I need to do. I need to make sure that I'm a professional baseball player. I need to make sure I make money to support my family. These are the things that I have on my to-do list. And then, thankfully I had some goals that I accomplished. And I was sitting there one year and I signed a contract with the Padres for 3 years that I thought would like make me super happy, and all these things that I worked for. And I signed, and I was waiting for all this confetti to come down, and nothing happened. Whoa, that was not as fulfilling as I thought it would be. And not to say that was a bad thing. It was awesome. But like, the Lord led me to these different stages of like, hey, you're not building your own kingdom. Like, the time you spend on this earth is to build my kingdom. And then my wife is amazing. We got married in 2009. She's been a rock in our relationship and helped me grow and just get away from other people's faith. And, I've been very thankful. The people that have been in my life, Yeah, I've had access to a lot of awesome believers that have poured into me. And I used to think one of my favorite Bible verses is to those who've been given much, much expected.
Love that.
And to those who've been trusted much, much more will be asked. And I always thought that was based on like physical ability. And hey, like God gave me the ability to throw a baseball and hit a ball. And like I have to work as hard as I can to fulfill those things. And I think that was a good thought process for a little while. And I think it drove me in different ways to work. But the more I know Jesus, the more I realize that like access to him and access to scripture, and those are the things that we've really been given. And so I've just been on this journey to try to grow in that way. And I've been really thankful. There's a lot of bumps in the road and a lot of bad decisions, but as it goes, I just keep seeing God's love in this and keep seeing this mercy. And I just keep like, okay, you have access to the King. You have access. Like you can go to the Bible anytime you want. You can call these people anytime you want. So now what are you doing with that access?
Man, Nick, away from that moment when the confetti didn't fall, that's pretty like, I always say it's almost better to not get what you want, because when you get what you want and if you don't have Jesus, it's worse off, because it's like if you don't get what you want, you still like, oh, if I get this money, if I get this, then I'll be happy. But if you get everything and still are like, what is missing? I said it's almost a rougher place to be. Away from that, though, would you say, is there any other pivotal moment that you've had since then, like faith-wise, that you would say like, man, this was another like kind of turning point, or no? And no worries either way.
No, I think, actually the next year that I signed that deal, I went out and I played, and I was like probably the worst player in the big leagues. And I got sent down to AAA, and I was like, okay, your identity is wrapped up in this thing about being a big leaguer and about being a productive player, and like people seeing you on TV, and like now I'm going to take that away. And not only did I get sent down to the minor leagues, but our AAA team with the Padres was in Tucson. So I go back to the place where I went to college 7, 8, 9 years ago, and I'm like, man, what am I doing with my life? And thankfully, a guy named Richard Lopez, who was FCA leader there. He was discipling me. He married me and Amy. He was awesome. And we just sat together and, like continued to pour into those identity things like, hey, what is it about this defeat? What is it about this failure? What is it saying about you? And what are you letting it say about you? And then having kids, amazing, getting involved with iGym. I mean, I feel like there's daily things, That's great. Okay. So, away from God's kindness, like, would you say, is there one or two things that you could put your finger on that have given you the success that you have? Again, just away from the kindness of God and faithfulness of God, of, just even your buddy working for the Rangers and whatever else, like away from that, could you put your finger on one or two things that you're like, I think this is what God is honored, or this is what, anything, and not even a spiritual lens, but really like a leadership, whatever. Yeah. Two things kind of stand out to me. I was really fortunate, like I said, with my dad, and he said from a young age, I can't remember how old I was when he told me this, but he said, Nick, in competition, you take a backseat to nobody. Outside of competition, it's different. But inside, when you step in the arena, you take a backseat to nobody. So that always was in my head. And when I went up, it's like, okay, like I go to college, it's like, okay, we got 6 other catchers. Doesn't matter. We go to the minor leagues. You have 190 players you're competing with. Doesn't matter. I get called up to the big leagues. My dad was at Washington when we moved my freshman year of high school, the middle of my freshman year. He took me to a game of the Kingdom. The Mariners were playing and Randy Johnson's pitching. I'm like, man, this is wild. So my second game in the big leagues, I'm facing Randy Johnson. It's like, okay, I take a backseat to nobody. Like over and over. Oh my gosh! You're a Hall of Famer. You're one of the best pitchers of all time. But I'm in the box too. Like it's time to go. So that mindset always really helped me. And then actually a guy named Steve Foster, who was a pitching coach with us in Colorado, he gave me a book called Traveler's Journey, one of my favorite books of all time. And in that, one of their pillars of success was like, I will persevere without exception. And like, no matter what, I'm going to keep going. So those two things, like I take a backseat to nobody and I persevere without exception. And it's like, those are kind of life calls for me in baseball and in every avenue now. So.
Oh my gosh, your dad makes me want to run through a brick wall. Yeah. I don't know if you know John Gordon. He talks to a lot of sports teams and whatever else. He's awesome, but I'm like, man, is your dad John Gordon or something like that?
Like I said, I got a good draw, man. You know, like,
oh my gosh, I'm like, really Dad, let's go. Yeah. One last question before we get to some IJM things. The difference, has there been one or two things that you've learned from going from a player to, the coaching side, the admin side? Even recently, several of doctor friends of mine have went from being kind of practicing to now they're hospital administrators, and they're like, this is different. It's like before I could just worry about kind of me, myself, and I. And now it's like, I got personalities and I got all this stuff. Like, is there one or two things that you've learned or like have been aha moments of that shift for you?
Yeah, I think seeing this side of it, like no decisions are made in a vacuum. If you're going to try to sign a free agent, you're negotiating with the free agent, with the player, with the agent. You're talking to coaching staff as well, but you're also negotiating with ownership too. On budgets, and you have a boss as well. Like I don't have, hiring power. That's Chris Young's job, right? Like, but I give my opinion, and I have a seat at the table to give my opinion. But I also know that, there's so many different angles being pulled at and tugged, and you have to negotiate on a lot of different levels and a lot of different angles. It's hard.
Anything you've learned about giving your opinion? Like, has there been anything that you've learned that way of like how to do that well?
Yeah, I think it goes back to scripture about telling the truth out of love.
Yeah.
Right? Because I love Chris Young, it's my job to tell him the truth of how I see it. And then whatever happens, I understand that I haven't earned the right to make the final decision. So whether he decides my opinion's right or wrong, doesn't matter. So it's my job to support that decision after it's done. But from players to coaches to front office to ownership, it's my job, because I do value them, to tell them the truth, not in an antagonistic way, but to say, hey, these are some things that I see. And then whatever happens on that end, if there's a free agent I would love to sign, or there's a player I really like in our system that I don't want to see traded, and we do trade him because we're trying to win the World Series, that's not my favorite player anymore. My favorite player is now the guy that we got, if that makes sense.
That makes total sense. Anything else that you'd say that you've learned in that shift from player to, like, has there been anything else that's like, man, this is okay. Now I see a bigger picture. I see, anything else that comes to mind there, Nick? Like, man, you got gold.
No.
Gosh, any more dad quotes? Your dad. I'm going to interview your dad next because.
Yeah, you needed Tim Hundley on here. You don't need to talk to me. When I got hired, our general manager, a guy named Ross Fenstermaker, and he asked me a question. He said, "What's the best, like probably the one trait that a player can have that they would make it in the big leagues? Like, what's one specific thing?" And for me, that would be ownership. And guys that take ownership of their craft, ownership of their career, ownership of their process, and they realize, like, yes, you work for the Texas Rangers, but you're also a small business, and it's your job to grow that business by people you surround yourself with and own that craft. And then, our president, Chris Young, is making the team and putting it together, but he doesn't have control over people's careers. They do. I do. I have control over my career based on the way I work, based on the way I handle my off season, based on the way I handle relationships in the clubhouse, all that stuff. So that would be one thing: ownership of your career, and ownership
of your career, and also ownership of your crap, probably as well. Like being willing to make own mistakes, being willing to own, like, hey, I screwed up, whatever else too, like. Yeah. And the ownership thing, that's legit. Okay, Nick, so IJM, I know that you are a big fan of it yourself. When did you first cross paths with IJM? And maybe even back a little bit further, like why should we care about social justice in general and the work IJM does?
Yeah, 100%. I had no idea what IJM was. I had no idea that people in poverty have a vast majority, like such a higher risk of being abused than people that live with means. So I'll take you back to 2014.
Yeah.
There was an awesome Bible study in spring training. So in Arizona, there's 15 spring training teams in Arizona and 15 in Florida. And a guy named Brian Hommel would organize spring training Bible studies all over the city of Phoenix. And there'd be hundreds of players and families go. And it was some of the best times of the year for us because he really knows Jesus and he would pour into people. Unbelievable. So we go to this Bible study and we had our daughter, Allie, who's 12 now. She was 6 months old at the time. And me and my wife were sitting in this Bible study. And there's probably 150 people, like 100 players, 50 wives, and it's awesome. And Brian had been working with this organization called Consider the Lily in the Philippines, in Manila.
Yeah.
And their whole goal was to rescue girls out of bad spots, abuse, trafficking, all these things. So he brings 2 girls from the Philippines over and he's like, hey, I just want these girls to share their testimonies. And it's like, what in the world just happened? And one girl is sharing how she was living with her aunts. They have no money and they sold her into prostitution when she was 12. And then she was rescued out of that. And then the second girl stands up and starts talking. And somehow her story is worse than the first and how she got rescued out. And now she's starting to talk about, sorry if I get a little emotional, but she's started talking about how she's like forgiving her abuser. And you're like, how in the world are you doing that? One, how are you in a foreign country speaking unbelievably powerfully to a room of people you have no idea who they are and vulnerable enough to tell that story? Yeah. And then vulnerable enough to say, these are the challenges, because the Bible said I'm supposed to love my enemy and forgive those who abuse me. I don't really want to do that. I don't know if I can get there. And I'm struggling with these things. And we talk about the Bible in such a way where it's like, oh yeah, I'll do that for sure. I agree with that. Or it's like, everything that's said in there, I agree with, which is total BS. If we're being honest, there's some things I'm really like, man, I don't know if I can get there. Like, how do I do that? And so I'm literally holding my daughter who's 6 months old and asked my wife, I'm like, what would be the worst thing that she will ever go through in this life? I'm like, those stories would be the worst thing that this girl would ever go through. And I pray that would never happen. But I also know, we live in a community that's gated and we live in a place where I don't have to sell my children for food, those types of things. And because I have to sell my niece because my kids are going to die of starvation. And that's the reality of it. Yeah. And you can say, oh my gosh, what terrible people. How would you sell your niece into slavery, into it? What are you going to do? Yep. So we get involved with this organization called Consider the Lily. Me and my wife joined the board, and the thing that drew us to them too was they get girls that are ready to prosecute their offenders. So sorry if this story's too long, but
no, this is great.
So we get involved with that. A year later, one of the girls, they rescue a girl out of a situation where she's being abused by her cousin. And her cousin, her uncle, is a senator, a politician in Manila. It's his only son. And she wants to prosecute. She's like, this is not right. This is not okay. And they walk into court with a public defender, and the abuser has means and has this huge law team. Is like, they're not going to win. Yeah. So I get a call from the girls at CTL, say, hey, what can we do? So Jacqueline Willer, who works for IJM, is a friend. I say, I know somebody, let me make a call. So I call her, I say, hey, we have this thing going on in the Philippines. What do you think? And said, we can set you up with a legal team. Here's how we do it. Boom, 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 boom. We walk in the next court session with a team behind her, and it's a fair fight. And it's like, nope. And he's in prison for, I think it was 16 years, I think.
Oh my gosh.
And it's like, no, you can't do these things and get away with it. Now, like, the legal system there is totally different than here.
Yes.
Like, I have no idea what's going on, but I know this young girl was abused by a family member that's not acceptable. And I know that she wants to prosecute. And because I can hit a baseball in America, we can help that. I'm in. So then I got to know IJM. I'm like, oh my gosh, what is going on? And the scale and the scope that they're working, it's like, man, we have 80 girls that we've rescued and helped in this home in CTL. Like, IJM is doing it on a unbelievable scale. So just being around people like that, that's our kind of background on it.
What would you say? Because you've heard it. Even as a pastor, I get offer all the time. Hey, can you do this? Can you? Why have you continued to be passionate about IJM and just even the work that they're doing? You know, again, for me, like I got asked twice in the last 24 hours. Hey, would Embrace, the church I pastor, get involved with this or this? Like, what for you is like, man, this is why I feel like I continue to invest here.
Yeah. I'll go back to some good books that I've read, and Mark Batterson, an author and pastor, and he's one of my favorite people in the world. And I've been fortunate to be around him a couple of times. I love him. He's a good man. Yeah. He talks about things that make you mad, sad, and glad are God ordained passions in your life. And it makes me really mad when somebody in power thinks they can abuse somebody who's not in power. And the audacity and the self-esteem that it takes to put yourself above somebody, that makes me really mad. And then it makes me glad when those people are held accountable for that. And then it makes me sad that it continues. Yeah. So those little things that, are just, I think they're God ordained passions in my life. And then God has blessed us with 2 girls. I'm very proud that I can be their dad. And I think God has put them in my life to say, like, they need to be protected, but people outside of their situation need to be protected too. So whatever I can do on that end, it's been a blast. And there's some amazing stories at IJM, and they've done some great things where they go into these places and they don't even rescue people. They just go in and completely shift culture and shift the way things are done. And they do some rescue, but it's such a great organization. I love them. It's
incredible. I was able to be in Kenya earlier this year. Hunter Henry with the Patriots and a group of us went over. And I could not believe, like, it was like, I thought IJM rescued people. They do that, and then they also change everything around it. I'm like, when they started talking about what they're doing in this place, I'm like, oh my gosh, you're not just like helping one person, you're shifting things to help a whole bunch of people. Do you have a specific challenge? So if someone's listening, like, hey, what should I do? Okay, I'm interested. Would you have a specific challenge that you'd lay out? Like, hey, do this.
Yeah, I think one thing that's really important is you have passions in your life, and that's amazing. But there's probably somebody that's already done that before, and aligning with people, like the unity of the church, right? Is so important that, like, this might be a little controversial and probably, I know there are a lot of people doing rescues, and I know there are a lot of people want to do really good things. They want to go in and like knock the door down and do all these things. But I think of it this way, like, so you go in and you rescue somebody out of a terrible situation. That is a great thought process. If you don't have aftercare for that person, the likelihood that that person's going back into that same situation is really high. And if you don't prosecute the person that's doing it, that is abducting kids or is trafficking people or is practicing modern day slavery in these bonded labor camps, the chances that person just goes and gets another person in poverty and just replaces the person that you just rescued, like a good day for the person you rescued without prosecution is a terrible day for the next person. Yeah. So I would say if that's a passion in your life, find out more and like become more of an expert on it, and then align with people that are already doing it in a really big way, in a really dramatic way, and are making real impact. Not saying I'm an expert in it because I'm still learning, but I want to align with people that are doing it. And I know that I don't have the means to go to a foreign country and break down a door and lead somebody through aftercare through all this process, but there are people that do.
That's good. That's good. I'll just drop in this really quick. My wife and I have been a freedom partner now for the last 2 years. And if nothing else, go to ijm.org and just find out at least just a little bit about being a freedom partner. That just means you give to IJM on a monthly basis. I honestly can't think of a better place to invest. And so would encourage you to do just that.
And there's some fun, like even like the pro athlete space, like there's so many pro athletes doing awesome things. Like there was, I think maybe 4 years ago, and actually probably longer than that, maybe like 6 years ago now, a pro athlete said, "Hey, I want to get involved." And like, hey, thankfully he has had a really good career, and like, hey, we're starting a field office in Romania, and these things take time and take money. He's like, all right, done. Writes a check to fund this field office starting up. and it's like one of those things like God ordained, like, okay, this field office takes a couple of years to get set up. And right when it's set up to go, Russia invades Ukraine. And what happens there, like you can't leave the country if you're a male between fighting ages. So all the women and children fleeing the country going into Romania are vulnerable to be trafficked or abused or finding a place to be. And guess who's there to receive them? Like this field office from IJM who works with local government, local churches, local police forces, local authorities. And like, hey, yes, we have the ability to receive people based on the fact that some athlete in America who can, produce on the field in a vocation that people like to watch on TV. Way to go. That's awesome. But says, yeah, let's do it. Let's build it out. And you're like, man, it's just incredible.
It's incredible. Okay, Nick, I got two last questions. They're just leadership questions. First off, how do you juggle all the things you're currently juggling? Is there anything that you've learned that's been helpful? I know for even me today, I came into today and I was already overwhelmed before the day even started. And it's just like, okay, God, anything that you've learned in that area?
Yeah. So the best years that I've ever had in my life in terms of relationships, in terms of that leadership, and not even like on-field performance or work performance, but more like connecting with people. And I wish I've done a better job of this continually because I can't say that I'm perfect at it, but waking up and walking into the door, the next room or the next conversation or the next phone call, whatever it is, and dropping a quick prayer. Okay, Lord, where are you working and what do you want me to do? What do you want me to know and what do you want me to do? Because we're walking into this podcast. I pray, Lord, okay, one, help me keep it together so I don't cry on video because this is not an audio. Like that was my prayer. And then two, okay, where are you working? What do you want me to say? What do you want me to know? And what do you want me to do? And then just continually do that over and over again in these certain spots and like listen and try to, and like I said, I'm preaching to myself. Sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. And I love scripture where it says David inquired of the Lord and things went pretty well.
Yeah.
And David thought to himself, things didn't go great. So that balancing act of like, okay, did you inquire or did you think for yourself?
That's good. Last question, 15, 20, 25 years from now, what does success look like for you? Like,
Yeah, my kid's coming back for Christmas.
Yeah.
And Thanksgiving. And we have a guy named Dayton Moore who ran the Kansas City Royals for a long time, won World Series there. Unbelievable man of faith and believer. And he got asked that question. That's not my own words, but he got asked that question a couple months ago by one of his friends. We were sitting there chopping it up. And he's like, you know what? Through all this parenting, through all this life, through all this stuff, at the end of the day, when my kids are old enough, I want them to make a choice to come back and hang out with me. I'm like, that's really good. I'm going to steal that. I may or may not, I may or may not cite my source. But at the end of the day, I want those who know me, actually know me, to still love me.
Well, hey guys, I hope you loved that conversation with Nick. I want to encourage you to share that episode, specifically those of you who like leadership. Share it with a buddy. Share it with
our pop culture.
Share it with a friend. Yeah. If you like pop culture too, share the episode and share the toast or whatever that is as well. But I just want to highlight it again. Nick and I, we talked about becoming a freedom partner with IJM. That's a monthly giver to IJM. I just want to strongly encourage you to do that. Whether it's $25, $50 a month, if you're looking for a nonprofit to get behind, you will not regret it. Becky and I, my wife and I, we've been freedom partners now for 1.5 years, 2 years, and it's honestly a gift to us that we can do that. So go to ijm.org and become a freedom partner. Huge shout out to our other partner, Vern ID Motor Cars. Just love you so much. Nick, it was such a joy getting across paths with you. Thanks to all of you who listened to the conversation. Very grateful.
Thanks, guys.